Hello, everyone. This is Yes, Capital Punishment is a Bad Public Policy. This is featuring Paolo Hawkins, Owen Peterson, Micah Davis, and Riley Johnson. So, what is capital punishment? Capital punishment is more commonly known as the death penalty, and it has roots going back hundreds of years. The British settlers that came to America brought the act of capital punishment with them. The very first execution happened in 1608 after a man was accused of being a spy for Spain. After this, execution was used as a more common practice for smaller crimes like stealing garden vegetables or trading with Native Americans. Now, the death penalty is obviously a lot harder to be charged with. Currently, the aspects of who and what can be charged with death penalty vary greatly state to state. Currently, only 27 states have death penalty laws in place, Utah being one of them. Texas is known for being a state that uses the death penalty the most. Currently, they have 196 people on death row. In Utah, there are only 7 people on death row, all of which are men, and they are pictured over here in the corner. Although no one in Utah has been executed since 2010, when Ronnie Lee Gardner was executed by firing squad for killing an attorney while he attempted to escape his prison sentence for killing another woman during a failed robbery. Currently in Utah, the only allowed method of execution is lethal injection, unless the drugs are not available, in which the firing squad is allowed. Additionally, currently the only crime punishable by the death penalty is aggravated murder. Like I said, it varies differently state to state. For instance, in Texas, you can be put on the death penalty for a lot of other reasons. For murder for hire is one of them. Murder committed during a prison escape. Killing of another offender serving a life sentence. Murder of a child less than 15 years old. Murdering a judge. So there's a lot more reasons you can be put on a death penalty, which is why they have a lot more people. Where is capital punishment applied? Capital punishment is applied in both the courts and correction areas of the criminal justice system. Court, a place where arguments are settled through the application of the law. There are 4 key pieces of the court system that help to settle criminal cases: a judge, a prosecutor, a defense, a lawyer, and a grand jury. These essential 4 pieces of a criminal court determine the outcome of the case and what the punishment will be. Corrections provide a system where the accused of crime are monitored, reformed, and released if and when they're ready to hopefully not commit crime again.
Alrighty. So why is capital punishment bad? Well, the main one and the biggest point that we make here is that it's irreversible. Once you've made that decision to put somebody to death and that has occurred, there is nothing to be done. If new evidence emerges proving innocence, it is too late to reverse the punishment. The possibility for wrongful executions does raise some ethical concerns. Additionally, there's some talk and an argument to be made that it is a violation of human rights. Capital punishment violates fundamental human rights, such as the right to life, while also putting into question Eighth Amendment rights, which are the right to protect individuals from cruel and unusual punishment, which is also a international human rights for treaties. It is a war crime to inflict cruel and unusual punishments. Additionally, it is expensive to carry about capital punishment, and it is a burden on the state, not just the actual act of the capital punishment, but also the legal proceedings, appeals, and the cost to maintain the death row inmates is significantly expensive, more expensive than just your average criminal in the correction system. Additionally, there is also some evidence to prove that there is a discriminatory application of capital punishment in our justice system. It's been argued that the criminal justice system can be influenced by racial and sex-related biases, leading to an uneven application of the death penalty. The main ones that we see where we see these discriminatory applications are in African Americans and in males. Next slide, please. All right. So over time, capital punishment and the support for it has actually increased over time, which is interesting because the United States was actually the last Western democracy to start executing inmates. And so while the punishment of death has never been ruled unconstitutional, we do argue that it is cruel and unusual. The Pew Research Center conducted a study in 2016 and found that 49% of Americans supported the death penalty, so nearly half. And then in 2018, that support actually increased by 5% to 54%. And then in 2021, that support for the death penalty increased again to 60%. So we've seen this trend over time that people are actually becoming more and more accepting of capital punishment and its implications. Next slide, please. All right. And so whilst we do have arguments for our position, there are always arguments against it. One of the main arguments against our position is that the death penalty acts as the best deterrent against crime. Ernest Van de Hague, I believe is how you pronounce that last name, a professor at Fordham University who studied the question of deterrence deliberately and closely, wrote that capital punishment is far more likely to deter than other punishments because people fear death more than anything else. They most fear death deliberately inflicted by law and scheduled by the courts. They fear not just death, but specifically scheduled deaths and intentional, I guess, killings by the government. They fear those more. And then he goes on to say, whatever people fear most is likely to deter most. So this idea that if I'm scared of dying, I'm not going to commit crimes that I could get killed for. And whilst this claim does have merit, it's actually been proven false by a lot of reputable sources. One of which is a 2012 report by the prestigious National Research Council of National Academies. And based on a review of more than 3 decades of research, so 30 years they looked into this, and they concluded that studies claim a deterrent effect on murder rates from the death penalty are fundamentally flawed. They went on to say that there's actually no or little correlation between the death penalty being applied and a lower amount of violent crimes that could be available for that capital punishment. A survey of former and present presidents of the country's top academic criminologist societies found that 84% of these experts rejected the notion that research had demonstrated any deterrent effect from the death penalty. So essentially, 84% of the experts say that there is no correlation and there isn't a deterrent effect of capital punishment. Next slide, please. So why does capital punishment cause contention? Well, some people believe that an eye for an eye should be the guiding principle when deciding what sentence a convicted criminal should receive. And while that is a very understandable point, it is not unreasonable to believe that people would be upset. A lot of the contention surrounding capital punishment comes down from emotions and morals. It is absolutely understandable that a family was lost a loved one at the hands of another would definitely want justice for their loved ones. It's not unreasonable to assume that people want things to be paid back in full. However, as we said before, we are forgetting that our system, while it is efficient to a very good degree, it is run by people, and people are not perfect, and mistakes do happen, and things slip through the cracks. And so it is an irreversible decision. And should these things go on through, we cause this systemic change that may lead to more and more accidental deaths. And so we believe that killing people is barbaric, and by killing inmates, our society heads down a cruel path that can have drastic repercussions if mistakes are made. And if we compare this to our data that we had earlier of this improved and continuing support for capital punishment, we actually find that as more and more people are okay with capital punishment, more and more capital punishment will occur, and more mistakes will occur. And so we are looking at the cost of innocent lives. And to us, as us believing it is wrong, those innocent lives are not worth the lives of the people who actually did commit crimes. And so next slide, please. I believe that's our works cited page. And there it is. And I think that is all from us today.